Today's episode of This Week in MMO is brought to you by Audible.com. Check out Audible free for 30 days and to receive a free book, just head on over to audible.com/gamebreaker.
Gamebreaker TV.
What's up, everybody? Happy Friday. Welcome to This Week in MMO, episode 140 for April 19th, 2013. You're watching Gamebreaker. I am Gary Gannon, and coming up today, Elder Scrolls Online gameplay footage gets analyzed, some Wildstar patch notes get dissected, and the premiere of Defiance. Hey, at least it's sci-fi, right? All that and more, but first, right here from Gamebreaker.tv, it's Mr. Jason Winter. How are you, sir?
I'm doing wonderful. I just shipped my pants.
Where'd you ship them to? Kmart?
Yeah.
Cool. And editor-in-chief over at Zam.com, it's Mr. Scott Hawks.
Hello. That was an opening line that needed plenty of quality enunciation.
Yes.
Shipped. I was very, very clear about it.
But no explanation at all.
No, not at all.
All right, let's get to it. Scott, if you can move your camera down a little bit so you're not
Oh, sorry.
bouncing. No problem at all. Just don't want to cover you up there. Perfect. Good man. Good man. All right. Crazy week. I want to start off this week by talking about Elder Scrolls Online. Let's talk Elder Scrolls Online. Bit of a bad week for ZeniMax. Some 20 minutes of leaked gameplay footage surfaced on the interwebs. And I got to start off by saying, what does anybody have any idea of why everyone and their like every single site covered this? Everyone picked up on it, including game. Well, sure. You didn't. We did. Gamebreaker did. GameSpot did. I think Kotaku did. PC Gamer did. Massively did. I mean, I saw it everywhere. I saw it all over the place. I think it may have originated on Reddit. I'm not sure. I don't know if that's exactly where it started from. But first of all, any idea of any inclination of, because there's leaks all the time. Like there's leaks that hit the internet constantly, people breaking NDA and doing bad crap like that. And most of the time, these things don't really get picked up, and a lot of times they get overlooked. You know, there's some sites that you probably don't want to go to that'll post them, but a lot of the big sites won't post that stuff. What was the difference this time? Was it a snowball effect of everyone looking at everybody else going like, oh, but they did it. Oh, but they did it. Oh, but they did it. Oh, but now we got to do it. Do it.
Pretty much. It's what it seemed like. It seemed there's such a clamoring for footage, such a clamoring to see the game, and then because of the overwhelming reaction it got in a negative light, especially on Reddit, which turned into an interesting place. For quite a while after that footage hit, and then you saw and then quite a few websites went with it because it was a big story, no doubt. And then there's more websites that showed it, more websites followed in showing it. So
I think part of it too is that we haven't had a gameplay video, like a real even just like a narrated, some prepared piece from them, which really strikes me as odd. Because I remember, I just compared like Old Republic 2 years ago. They were at PAX East, and I ran the Flashpoint they did there. And like a week later, after everyone had seen it at PAX East, a week later they did a little narrative. I think Dallas Dickinson narrated it. Like, here's the Flashpoint. Here's everything that goes through it. It's like, why can't you guys give us any of that? Just any gameplay video.
You think because just the lack of footage out there just has been, it's probably the next big, most highly anticipated MMO coming out that everybody's just clamoring for footage. Let's blame it on the fans. We'll blame it on the fans for forcing us to post it because they want it so bad.
I stood firm and said, no, we shall not. And I'm all right.
Suck up. Excuse me.
I don't care. I was like, don't want to cover it. Especially, I think it's partly because seeing that video, the only way I would have posted it was basically to eviscerate it. and then it kind of became pointless in doing it. So I just went with no, it's a leak. I'm not covering it.
And that's really what I want to get into a bit today. So whether you saw it or not, it's been nuked, I think, almost everywhere. So it's, you know, I wouldn't even go looking for it at this point. But for those of you who have seen it, which I'm sure a lot have, I kind of wanted to go and kind of not dissect it, but I did want to get a sense because you did get a long, lengthy hands-on with ZeniMax not too long ago. So I wanted to get your sense about it, like, you know, because there was a lot of stuff being slang around and comments going crazy and stuff like that. What do you think was the most? I can pick out some things in the video just by watching it on my end, not even playing it, that were like just an abomination. I mean, we'll get into like, you know, the player not doing basically any quest and basically hitting one key when he has a whole barrage of
that was among,
so.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all he had one. He had a bunch. He's not even using it. So
there's a ton of stuff in there where you could go.
Fireball.
Where you could go. If somebody wanted to make a video to make a game look as bad as humanly possible, intentionally, that's how to do it. Basically.
So what do you think? But first off, what off the bat? What do you think was the most glaring sort of like thing that got under your skin that you kind of want to let the audience know about? That hey, this is an obvious misrepresentation of this game.
First of all, I think the biggest thing people talked about were, hey, the graphics don't look good, and you can see he's got high settings on there. Now, either A, that's a build. Let's put it this way. 3 weeks before PlanetSide 2 launched, for about a week, they turned the graphics quality down, right? Just to for people who don't know, when you're looking at sort of like when you're looking at client stability, server-side stress, and all the rest of it, the developers will have sliders and knock things down, bring things up, and blah 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 blah. PlanetSide 2, 3 weeks before it launched, looked like arse. It looked awful.
We were all shaking in our boots. We were like, "What happened?
It was like, oh my god, this looks awful."
And they were obviously testing things. They're
exactly. They were testing stuff. And so after a week, it went click and went back to the game that we knew. It went, oh, okay, all right, this is all right. And in fact, graphically, I think it actually improved again from that by the time launch happened. So these things happen. So when this footage was taken, I don't know. All I know is this. It didn't look like that when I played it. It didn't look anything like that when I played it. It looked much, much better. Am I saying that it's graphically going to blow your socks off and it's going to look like something you would expect to see in a single-player game? No. It's an MMO. And its graphics are perfectly functional within what you would expect for an MMO. It's not mind-blowing, but it's certainly good. And it was certain, and you got to remember, it's also the starting zone. Plus, you barely saw anything in the starting zone that he was showing you anyway.
Well, that's what I want to get to. Like,
run over lots of sand.
Let's talk about that for a second, because so is that the same starting zone that you experienced on your hands-on, starting off on the boat?
Yes.
Moving to the beach.
On the last hands-on, yes, that's the one. Yeah.
Okay, so you actually experienced the same thing.
Yeah.
Just from an overall sense of immersion and feel, what do you think was actually like sort of missing and lacking? What did this players do? He kind of roamed around the boat a little bit, got off on the beach, he smacked out a couple crabs, and I think at that point everyone was like, "What's going on here? What did he miss?"
Most of the content.
Just the game. That's all he missed. Was
just the game mainly. For a start. The questing that he showed you, I mean, everybody, if they want, just clicks through questing, and that's something you can certainly do. But he did it, and if you're shown a video what the game's like, and you don't actually go through the sort of quest chains and the voiceover, which a lot of it is really well put together, the humor is really good, it's really well written. You don't get any of the flavor and the taste of the atmosphere and the personality of the game at all. So you didn't get any of that. He ran quickly through town to the one quest where you're trying to find someone who's hidden and you find their monkey instead. He did that, but he just ran in, found it, ran out again. So you didn't really get to see much at all, and that was most of it. So you missed out basically on all of the sort of flavor you get with the questing. The combat, Apparently, he had his finger glued to the left mouse button, and that was all he was allowed to use.
That's it.
He did throw a fireball or two. I saw that a little bit.
And then he specifically went to first-person mode as well, which looks bad. Why? Because it's not actually in the game properly yet at all. Like,
yeah, let's get to that. But let's talk about. So the questing, I mean, he just skips over all of it, skips through all the text. You don't get any of the flavor. You have no idea what's going on. He looks like he's just running.
So he played it like an MMO player.
Yeah, basically, I suppose. Yeah. But if you're going to show it as a video of what the game is, you have to show that. You know what I mean?
Well, he doesn't have to because he doesn't have to do anything because this isn't.
If you're not doing it to try and make the game look bad,
right?
You're gonna show
right.
what's
If you're the
actually
type of
in the
MMO
game.
player that wants to play a game like that, well, that's your prerogative, and there are going to be people who want to skip through that stuff, and that's totally cool, and that's totally up to you. And a lot of people play like that. But again, for all the other people sitting on the sidelines, if you're just watching a video, you're probably more looking at some of the flavor stuff, and you want to sort of get a feel of what it would feel like playing this game. Let's talk about the combat then for a second. So combat, like we said, you can see on his UI, he's got a multiple or a few abilities there, and he basically uses practically none of them. He just completely just he's like, I'm going to use these. Yeah. So again, people are yelling and screaming and complaining about something like that, but it's like, obviously, but the first thing when I saw that was when I immediately said to me, like, all right, there's either two things that are happening here. Either this person wants to, for some reason, produce a video that is going to show this game in a negative fashion that may possibly not really be the truth, or just they're making sure they're doing that. Or this is somebody who has never played an MMO in their life and they have no idea what they're doing, and they're just kind of like fudging it. I'm going to go with my A option first.
Me too.
But it is possible because, on the other hand, you also got to think of this person in the mindset, right? This person's account has to be banned at this point. I mean, they left their nameplate up.
One would think.
They left their nameplate up. I mean, they didn't even try and hide it.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that they wanted to do this, or they disliked the game to some extent. Just said, I don't even care if my account gets used, or they were just incredibly stupid.
My only thought, well, I think it's a mixture.
I think definitely.
I think the only sort of thing that came to me was like, he's an avid Skyrim fan, and he played the game and went, "This is an MMO." And lost it and decided to rage and show everybody his unhappiness, or I don't know. Because let's put it this way, people say that it was on settings, that was on high. I don't know if he was playing the game on a toaster. Because if that was high settings, either A, that's an old build, and I know that the game I played in October, that build, to the builder I played in March, was it? I think. There have been leaps and bounds in animations, the crispness of the graphics, and so on. Like, I didn't get too overcritical of it in October because it was such an early build. You can't start slagging off a game when it's that early in beta, going, oh, the animations are rough, that means it's terrible, and it's never going to, it's early in beta. There's a reason this is. And again, I think there's also a confusion of, this is a proper beta. This is focused periods of intense testing. And there's a reason it's a closed beta. It's not one of those, hey, we're gonna let loads of people come in and we're gonna let you shoot footage and all the rest of it. And then eventually it'll be the open beta, which is essentially the soft launch. This isn't that kind of beta. It's a proper testing beta.
So tell me about, I want to know, I want to go back to combat real quick. And then we were talking about he's hitting basically one button. At that early level, can you give me a sense or a feel of what are the options available to you at that level, and how what is he missing there and the complexity of it?
Well, I mean, I didn't play that class, but I know that I was playing Dragon Knight.
Something in general,
I had like more than one ability very quickly. Like, you're not going to spend forever just slashing with your left click over and over and over again. You're not. And, you're not going to be doing... I didn't seem to do power attacks. Like, you're just slashing away, left. Like, we weren't getting power stuff.
we didn't really see much variety at all in what he was doing. We didn't see him use the different abilities that are around, and they unlock. You get something new really pretty quick, because it's like, you know, MMOs. They want you to get to use the different things at your options, so they'll give you something pretty early to put on your hotbar to get used to using your hotbar as well as the other attack. So I mean, and the other thing is that gets me is the thing that was most noticeable about when I played was the abilities on the hotbar looked really cool. Like the fiery reach ability I had, where you throw the chain out and pull somebody back, it looked great, and I really liked it. And then the next ability was like, it was a damage shield, and like big purple draconic spikes come out your body. Was the next visual one that I had. Like, it looked cool. Nothing he did look cool, but that doesn't mean that that's representative of the entire game. And yet people seem to be very quick to be happy that that is representative of the game.
Because we've never seen anything else. That's going back to my older point.
But
I know.
That's not true at all.
People in
because
general.
They have.
You at PAX and people.
No, and there's been videos where you've had gameplay footage in it. I'm not saying that it's extended.
Well, sure. I mean, you'll see an occasional little bit.
Yeah, you'll see bits. There hasn't been
sure.
extended commentary videos like you've said. There haven't been any of those yet. That's true. Mm-hmm. Probably because it's not at the stage where they're going to be releasing that, because the game's not ready for that yet, really. But I will say that the build that I played, and I will have to say though, in this context, it's on the rigs that they've got at ZeniMax. It's on. I don't know what server it was being played on. I don't know if it was an internal server. I don't know what server it was on at all. So it has to be put within that context. I don't know if what I played was completely representative of what the game's going to look like at the end. But what I saw is a lot better than what that video showed. I know that.
Jason, what do you think they should do at this point? You seem quite adamant, like you want to see gameplay footage. Do you think that the best move that they could do to sort of counter this bad publicity is to just get in there and make a really good kick-ass gameplay video for the fans? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it's like we're going to talk about Wildstar in a minute. You know, they got their stuff leaked and they said, well, okay, we're going to leak the whole thing and show you everything. It's like they should maybe take the same approach. I mean, again, talking about SWTOR, that, you know, we got that bit, and we'd had videos before PAX East too, and then we saw the walkthrough a little later, and that was a game that was coming out that year. Came out in December of that year. But they keep saying Tesla's going to come out in 2013, and we've seen very minimal in terms of actual gameplay of it, and it just seems really weird that they could still say it's going to come out this year. You know, 8 months at most left, and we've just seen very little in terms of really solid video of the game itself.
So what do you feel? Are you feeling really skeptical that the fact that you think that it might not come out in 2013, you're feeling skeptical it might slip?
I'm more worried that they're committed to coming out in 2013, whatever shape it's in. That seems like what people tend to do more these days.
What I'd say is that, and I agree, I think if they got some extended video gameplay footage out there, I think that would help a lot. But what I would say is this, is after that came out, I sat down and thought, did they put something in my drink when I was at ZeniMax or something? Because that's not the game I remember. And I started questioning myself and thinking, because I really enjoyed that, and I remember Richie really enjoyed it, and it seemed to go well. And then, so I started looking at their reviews of people who played it at PAX East, and they were pretty much overwhelmingly positive too. Mm-hmm. And nobody was saying, well, the game looks terrible and it looks outdated and it looks like this and it looks like that. So if everybody I know who's played it likes it and thinks it looks pretty solid, not saying that it's an MMO, I'll say that. It's not going to, like, you know, cure problems with the ozone layer, and it's not going to do anything else other than the fact it's an MMO, and it'll have many of the things you'll recognize in an MMO. So if you want something that's completely different to anything you've ever played before, I'm afraid you will be disappointed. But it's a solid MMO. It's got combat that feels good, and the questing's well put together. Even though it's pretty standard questing, it's nicely done.
See, that's what we have to think about, right? What are the Elder Scrolls? What are the Elder Scrolls games kind of like? What do they stem on? They stem on from great questing, right? Lots of flavor. The world feels really rich and believable. In this video, we saw no quest. We saw no story. We saw none of that at all. So what else feels good? What else feels good in the Elder Scrolls games? People really love the combat, right? Combat is only something you can do when you have your hands on, first of all, and basically not hitting one button for sure. And we saw one person hitting one button. So like the pillars that the Elder Scrolls franchise sort of like all hinges on of what people like about it. And then I'd say the next thing after that might be like the crafting systems and like, you know, and also the experimentation with classes and how you can sort of branch off and all these different things. Yeah. And all those, if you had to take like those 5 things, which I think most gamers would probably agree that those are like the 5 pillars that like that's why they like Elder Scrolls Online. You don't get any of that from this video. So it's like, you don't know the quest, you don't know the story, you don't really get a good sense of the combat, you did nothing about the crafting system, and you really don't know about the exploration of like the skill system. So
it was complete, as I say, it was completely unrepresentative of the game graphically, and you didn't get anything when it comes to the idea of the kind of the way that it fashioned story to start with. As I said, there's a lot of personality, a lot of fun in the story that you get for that opening area that you can dip into the depth that you feel like or not, and that's the main strength of that starting area. It is a newbie zone. It's you know. It's getting you used to just the basic things that you're doing because it's a mainstream MMO. You're used to the basic things you're doing, introducing to the idea of the way that stories work, questing works, and so on. But graphically, it looked a lot better than that when I played it, a lot better. It was much more fun to play with that. There's a lot more involved in it, even though it is a newbie area and you're not expected to be in there for 12 hours. It's supposed to be the thing that, you know, you move on from. Not pretty quickly if you don't want to be completionist and explore the whole thing. So I think there's a lot of people who really, really want Elder Scrolls to fail. Really want it to fail. Because the response you got was, it looks like an MMO. Really? Who'd have thought that? It's an MMO? And it looks like an MMO? That's crazy talk. I don't, honestly, it just made my mind scramble when I saw some of that this week. Well, I don't want to play an MMO, so why are you watching this thing?
I do think what Jason hit on though, like right, you know, if ZeniMax were to put out a really nice gameplay video right now, or in the very near future, maybe they're waiting for E3. Maybe E3 will be the big, which would probably quite possibly be the big reveal of when we're going to see more and blow everybody away. But
hopefully in E3 we might learn about revenue as well.
This is
the revenue model.
What was that, Jason?
That's what we thought last year too. Remember they had their reveal, and then we were like, "Oh, they're going to be great at E3," and we get this like 20-second video of some people standing around. It's like, but yeah,
Jason?
I think they shouldn't wait that long. That's just all I'll say.
All right, well, let's talk about some more leaks. It's like the week of leaks, week of leaks. So apparently, Wildstar had a patch note leak, and we normally wouldn't cover patch note leaks or something like that. But kind of interesting way to handle this, the Carbine team decided to basically acknowledge the leak and post all of the patch notes up on their own website for Wildstar. Jason, what do you think of that kind of a response?
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, it's cool. It's a cool way to do it. You hope that it doesn't, obviously you don't want that to be like a precedent every time something gets leaked. Oh, we'll just throw it up on there. And so encourage people to do that. But I mean, if you're gonna do it, it's for something as relatively mild, you know, leaking patch notes probably not as big a sin seemingly as leaking crappy video. You know, just if that sort of thing happened, you know, just as a random comparison. So yeah, I think it's a decent way to go, but not something you necessarily want to set a precedent for.
Now, obviously, there's a ton of patch notes here. We would need an entire Wildstar specific show to go through them all. Hint. But there are a few interesting things that we can possibly take away from this. So, the level cap in beta is 22. I don't know. Does it give anyone any indication at all how far along they are in testing or what they're doing? Pretty.
Well, seeing that it's at this sort of stage, and they're going to want to control the sort of progression with us. I mean, this is the first large raft of people in beta testing. I mean, I'm sure they've had other betas like that are not as public as this. That they've had people in, but this is the first large raft of beta testing that they've had that we've known of. So I would imagine they're just testing the content in chunks. So letting people get to a certain level, play within that. They can do a real focused analysis of what's going on, and then go from there. One would imagine. I mean, you could say, well, maybe it's just that they haven't got anything ready after 22. That's certainly possible. But I would think that since this first section of beta, it makes sense to limit it to a certain degree.
A couple of really other interesting things in here. First one being something that I think we would love to all see more of. Inventory system. Sounds really nice. Standard quest items, and crafting items all separated out into your inventory. I think that's definitely a good thing. I can't understand why more games don't do this.
I definitely shipped my pants when I heard that.
Elder Scrolls does it, actually. It does the same.
Good. It seems like it's standard. That's coming. Like every game has to do
it is.
that.
It's moving to it.
This one here, actually legit group finder in beta already. Group finder. Finally, devs realizing, hey, we're going to have to do this at some point. Maybe we just do it at launch.
People are going to want to play together in an easy way, aren't they?
No, you don't need to do it. You don't need to do it at launch. It's going to take so long for people to get to max level. They won't need to find these endgame groups.
True.
It'll take
and you don't
months
need
and months
endgame and any of that stuff.
None of that stuff. None of that stuff. Well, what do you think? Do you think it's about time that developers start realizing? Do you think that this will also catch on as something that all MMOs going forward will start seeing that as just a standard system?
I'd like to think they would, but I'm skeptical that they will think that it's something that needs to be in at launch, because you're going to have, when you're going to launch the game with all the other 8 billion things that are going to be in there, you're going to have to, at some point, you're going to have to decide what you're just going to kind of push aside until an update a little later, and that's one of the sort of easy ones to put in there. It's not totally necessary. So, yeah, I think it's not going to be a major trend that we'll see that sort of thing at launch.
I mean, when's the last time we've actually seen a game launch with a group finder? I can't even think of one.
I can't think of one. It's like, it seems to be that recently that sort of facility is not a priority for launch. It's something that, I mean, it's almost not a priority for just after launch either. I mean, there's games where it's gone on for a long time without a full sort of group finder, the sort of LFG that we talk. I think we're envisioning.
Doesn't it almost philosophically seem ridiculous that it's not mandatory though? Like, you're making a social game for people to play together. Maybe we give people a tool to actually find other people to play the game with.
That you would think that we're going back to the whole, what does massively multiplayer mean, and to things that facilitate that element of what you would think would be the core part of your game might be important, one would think, but it doesn't seem to be.
I think there's some resistance to some people thinking that, if I spam the LFG in my channel, or if I had my guild to do stuff, that was good enough for me, and you don't need this tool, it's not personal enough or whatever. And I just don't think that's the case. I think that's just not how it is this day. I think we have to realize that that's just not how people, not necessarily not how people play, but a lot of them just don't. They don't get super social into their guild. They don't want to spam LFG in chat or whatever. It's just a more convenient way to do it. It's a more convenient way to get people, basically to get people playing your game. And the more convenient you make it to play your game, the more likely people are going to be to stay.
I'd love to see
driving philosophy behind free-to-play.
I'd love to be able to get some stats on over the years, over the course of the MMORPG genre, like all the way back when, and get to see what across all games, how the average playtime session has changed over the years. Because I wonder if it's actually gotten smaller and smaller, because that's like the perfect tool for that, right? Hey, I don't have much time. I want to jump in. I need to find a group quick. I'm going to just play this one thing and I'm going to jump out. And that's obviously what a tool like this is really good for. And you know what? I'm maybe not like making like awesome friends with these people, and we're not really talking a whole bunch, but I still want to jump in a group, and I still want to go do this part of content.
I would say that that's most likely accurate, because the audience is getting more mature, shall we say. And, I think that's the case. And I also think that because people have expectations now of being able to get into a game and just go in, do something, and get out if you want to. That kind of almost has to be an option in games now. When it wasn't, I mean, early MMOs, it was very, actually being able to just go in and do something just for like 45 minutes and get anywhere was difficult, if not impossible.
Oh,
Whereas now it's
impossible.
kind of mandatory to have that.
Yeah, back then you were sitting down. That was like a 4 or 5 hour play session at a clip.
Yeah. You needed 2 hours just to be able to get somewhere safe at the end of it to be able to log off.
Yeah, exactly.
1 hour to find your
Train!
group, 2 hours. It's safe.
I thought this was really nice as well. Public events have a summary pop-up upon completion, so showing stats for everyone as well as all the rewards they're given. I kind of like that. I mean, I'm definitely a fan of that. I think a lot of people are going to like that instead of just seeing like, gold, silver, bronze of people in the group. You actually get to see like if your buddy did more DPS than you and things like that, and just a little bit more stats. So that sounds actually really cool as well.
Well, with some of the systems they've got, especially when it comes down to like raiding, that they're going to be not necessary, but certainly like aid that, because things like, if I remember correctly, it's not just downing a boss; it's how well you down the boss. Like there'll be certain parameters within which, like either if I don't know if some of you don't die or you manage to do the boss perfectly or within a certain time or things like that, will get you bonuses, including perhaps loot. I think that's been mentioned with Wildstar. So there's like that sort of competitive PvE edge to things. So that sort of information will not only be cool, but for your sort of cutting edge guilds, it'll be really quite important. So I think those systems are there. They really seem to have like a robust handle on what they want to do when it comes to like PvE and endgame particularly, and all those systems really kind of support that.
All right, coming up next, I want to talk about Defiance. But first, I want to talk about our sponsors, Audible. Audible.com. I love Audible. If you guys want to check it out, you can get a free 30-day trial, and you're going to get a free audiobook. All you got to do is go to audible.com/gamebreaker. Use that URL and sign up today. Get the app and download it to your, your iPhone or your. Hey, have any of you guys? I finally finished my my Game of Thrones kick. But are any of you guys? Well, yeah. So I was playing last weekend. Well, I jumped back into more Neverwinter on the last weekend event thing, and man, I was having a lot of fun. Like a lot.
It is a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. It's a really solid game.
It actually got me. I'm now on my second Neverwinter book. So the Dungeons and Dragons Neverwinter books are all up on Audible. So another R.A. Salvatore.
The monster was the intruder here, coming into the hunter's domain. He had witnessed the basilisk kill several of his Rothae, the small cattle-like creatures that enhanced his table with its poison breath, and the rest of the herd had fled blindly down the endless tunnels, perhaps never to return. The hunter was angry. He watched now as the monster trudged down the narrow passageway, just the route the hunter had suspected it would take. He slid his weapons from their sheaths, gaining confidence, as always, as soon as he felt their fine balance. The hunter had owned them since his childhood, and even after nearly 3 decades of almost constant use, they bore only the slightest hints of wear. Now they would be tested again. The hunter replaced his weapon.
So that is Neverwinter, Legend of Drizzt, the Neverwinter Saga, Book 2. There's a bunch of them up here, and you can grab one of these as your free book if you have not signed up yet. Go over to Audible. Man, I wish I had a voice like that. I gotta go practice that. I could do books.
You want Roy Dotrice's voice, who does the Game of Thrones books? That's what you want.
Oh, so good. So good. Check it out. Go over to audible.com/gamebreaker. Sign up, get your free 30-day trial, and start downloading that book today. It's a good one. It's another R.A. Salvatore book. There's you search Dungeons and Dragons or Neverwinter, they've added a bunch of them. That is the unabridged version. How long is this one? 11 hours, 45 minutes of pure D&D.
How long was Game of Thrones again?
It's a quick one. It's
Game
like
of Thrones is like 38
30
hours.
hours.
38.
I
It was
can
like
just imagine
30.
they should get the voice actors doing one session for that.
Yeah, I
Just
think
the
like
whole
book.
thing all
What
at
is it like?
once.
Book 3 is like over 40 hours. I think 2 is a little shorter, like 36, and then 3. It's crazy. All right, let's talk about
doing that
Defiance.
in one session.
Oh, that does not happen. That's
Yeah,
a
the last
week's-
3 chapters would be kill me.
Yeah, I'm dying.
Just
Defiance. Did you guys check the premiere of the television show? Did you guys catch the world premiere?
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Awesome. So we're going to talk about a TV show on TWIMMO. Get over it. Basically, it's massive. It's online. There's multiple people watching it. So I'm calling it an MMO. That's right. It's an MMO, right? It's an MMO.
You're basically you're Lucy Bradshaw.
All right. I unfortunately missed it. So I need to catch up on it and go to Hulu and watch it. I'm terrible.
It's all right.
So I'm just going to ask.
I'll fill you in.
Fill me in.
Everyone
So,
dies.
and for those wondering what it is, so this is the crazy project that Tryon has been doing where they've released an MMO on Xbox, PS3, and PC in conjunction with a television show that has debuted now on the Sci-Fi Channel, which is just absolutely nuts. And I still don't understand how they're all pulling this together, but they are. So no spoilers. I will ask for that first because some people may want to watch the show. So no spoilers. Thank you. But I'll ask you first. I don't know. Jason, I'll start with you. What did you think of the show overall?
I thought it was decent. I mean, I didn't think it was like groundbreaking, fantastic, amazing, but I thought it was a good bit of action. With some storylines being developed too, not necessarily like super intelligent, not maybe as brilliantly dramatic as we'll say Battlestar Galactica, because that's the sort of, in some sense, what I compare it to, being also another sci-fi show with music by Bear McCreary. It's like I recognized that immediately. It's like, oh, that's got to be Bear McCreary doing the music. Yeah, it was. I mean, overall, I thought it was good. It certainly bore a little cliched, and sometimes I'll say it bore resemblance to other things, which we're going to talk about a little bit. But Sci-Fi has done some crappy shows, some stuff I really didn't like, and this wasn't among them. So I'll definitely keep watching.
Scott Hawks, what are your thoughts?
How vicious should I be?
Oh,
Rockney S. O'Bannon, he was involved in Defiance. I like him because I used to watch Farscape, and Farscape has all of its clunky things about it, but it's beautifully off kilter and away from what you would expect, like for a lot of ways in sci-fi, which is exactly not what Defiance is. If you could make a Han Solo Malcolm Reynolds bingo card and fill it up in the first 20 minutes of watching that show. Basically, Nolan, who's the lead character, is essentially he's like them, but without the charisma and as much. And I'm trying not to be really nasty, but those lines in it, they're just like that. Some of the dialogue was like forehead smacking, and I'm very critical. I am extremely critical when it comes to that because I'm an editor, and so when I'm watching things, I'm hearing things and going, I can't believe that got to that there. Like someone should have said, no, we need to go a different direction with that. And when I'm sitting there going, that's way too on the nose. That's obvious. Wait a minute, no one would ever say that, and it's obvious you're only saying that because you're trying to lead into trying to do something with the next scene, and then it exactly happens that way. You're like, oh, that's clunky. And it felt bad. I thought it was mediocre. I thought that it was entertaining in some parts, but I thought that it was very obvious. I thought that it thought the way to set up a mystery was by just not telling you anything, and that's not how you actually set up a mystery as a narrative device. You actually set up a mystery that is intriguing. No, what does this mean? What happened here? There's like a ton of stuff I know about the plot that I know from Wikipedia rather than from the show or the game, which doesn't make any sense because a lot of that stuff would actually be interesting, like the fact there's 7 different alien races within the Vote. It's not a spoiler. Within the Votans, the Vols who are involved in it in a way. I can't talk about that because I'll be spoiled.
Well, let me ask you. Do you think that they? Do you think that they want to do that to some extent to do this transmedia thing, that they kind of want to entice you to get more involved and play because they obviously want you to play the game and watch the show. So do they want to do that deliberately to deliver some information in the game through playing through the story there
because
and
the game
through the
doesn't deliver it. The game doesn't deliver it
I'm posing
either.
questions, sir. I'm not saying that's what their answer is. I'm sort of just questioning.
Okay. The answer is maybe, but they didn't. Like, can we talk about how the game relates to that episode?
Absolutely.
Because this is a bit of a spoiler. If you play the episodic series of quests through the game, what basically happens is you meet up with Nolan and Arissa, and you go on your adventures with them, which is to get an item. And when you have that item, basically they screw you over, and in a way that I think you're supposed to be going, oh, those scamps, sort of like Heart of Gold ruffian, like, you know, Han Solo, Malcolm Reynolds style of that they are. But you don't. You just
MMO
think,
players
well,
aren't gonna buy that.
no, you're just like, Pratt, you've stolen my loot.
Yeah. That's, no.
Yeah, and then that object is basically what they use to get the MacGuffin that's in the pilot. And that's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the entirety of the
That's how
interaction.
it meshes.
Mm.
I mean,
did you really expect a lot more of a tie-in than there actually is?
Not really, just for the fact that they basically said there wasn't going to be. I think they said that not until the second season would you really see more like sort of very close-knit.
Is that the
more
end
week
game?
to week kind of thing? Maybe.
That's the end game of the show. The game totally changes next season.
Yeah, maybe. But no, I think I maybe expected a little bit more something. But what you got to remember is the game and the show operate in two different places, so it's kind of difficult to have it that closely tied together initially, anyway. So basically, you see them when they're on the way to.
I think we knew that. I think in some of the interviews prior to it coming out, they had kind of explained that things were going to be like that. Yeah. But that's actually one of the things I saw a lot of our community actually sort of complaining about, is that after they watched the show, they immediately, in some sort of capacity, would have really liked to go and explore the places that they had just seen in the show. Yet they don't exist, or they're not able to get there. So that was one of the things I saw a lot of people actually talking about. But Jason, how did you feel the tie-in was with the game? Are you playing the game at all?
I think that, I played it mostly in the beta, but I think that'd be tough to do because the game is going to be so static. It's not like you have some opening quest where you have to go to meet the lawkeeper, and 8 years from now, it's going to be the same guy standing in the same place, and you have to go talk to him. Even though on the show it might be different, it might be a different guy, might be killed off, he might move somewhere else. So it's like, how do you really put that in the exact same spot and have all the exact same stuff? A village in, Cataclysm aside, a village in WoW is going to look the same as it did 8 years ago. So you can't necessarily tie the game to that so much as being directly tied to the show. So it makes sense they put it in a different spot, you can't go to the exact places. In terms of the overall connectivity, again, I was always a little skeptical as to how much exactly they're going to be able to do because of things like the TV show just being they film that stuff weeks or months ahead of time. So how can you directly tie that into stuff that's going on in the game, especially if you were in the same place?
What the show made me realize more was that why is it you only get to choose between two races in the game? Yeah,
that was another thing too. It's like I hadn't really followed all the background or everything. I didn't look like you looked up Wikipedia or whatever. I sort of had the notion there were other races.
Aren't there like 7?
There's 8. Well, 8 counting humans, I think.
Yeah,
7 the Votan. And I'm like, really? I thought it was just humans and whatever.
That's it. When they say the Votans, you kind of expect that to be the other race, and it's not. The Votans are a collection of races that you don't really know why they come together in the first place. That's
kind of what you're getting into, though, is that they had to throw everything into the pilot, so everything they needed to discuss didn't really get explained that well. Like, where do the Votans come from? Why is there fighting? Why is there even arc falls? I know what that is. I know why. I've read that much. I've read that much, but none of that was really explained in the show.
I hope
it's
nonsense.
Go to the game.
to be honest, it's nonsensical
Mhm.
why there are arcfuls, but and what effect they have. Well, that sounds hard. That's very hard. It's not nonsensical why there are arcfuls. We don't know what happened that caused the event that makes arcfuls. Nobody knows that. But you weren't told that was a mystery.
Yeah,
either.
yeah, exactly.
You don't know it's a mystery to all of the characters why all of those huge ships that you saw blew up, exploded, and started falling to Earth. The stuff on the ships is terraforming equipment, and that's why you see alien things on Earth, is because they came to terraform Earth not knowing that there were people here.
Oops.
Those highly advanced aliens who didn't realize that was several billion people living on that planet broadcasting signals.
Maybe they did.
No, they didn't.
No, they didn't.
I don't know if that's right. I don't know. I was actually told by somebody else that they did know that they were there, but they had given up, like they had kept giving like demands and then just gave up and said screw it, we're coming. But I believe that I don't know.
No, it's supposed to be they got here, found we were here, went whoops, and then started negotiating, like trying to figure out how to make it work when there's an Archduke moment and someone's assassinated, which kicks off a war. And then at some point, all of the ships blow up, and nobody knows why. But none of that you get told in the game or in the television show. So you don't know. There is a mystery at the heart of it, but you weren't told enough information to actually know that there is a mystery in the heart of that. Which
all right, I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna move on from all this stuff. What did you guys think? What did you think of the overall production value of the show?
Sorry.
What did you guys think of the overall production value of the show as far as like special effects and the alien races and the makeup and all that kind of stuff? That's a big part of it as well.
It was decent. I mean, there were certainly times where I think they used special effects when they didn't need to. Like there's certain motorbike scenes where it's like that. You'd have been better just having some people on a motorbike because that just doesn't look good. You know, they were moving like fishes in water, and that doesn't look good. But most of the special effects were pretty good. You know, there were moments where they were ropey, but you know, it's not a massive budget. It's going to have its limitations. But it's pretty solid, and you know, it had good production value. There was certainly that. As I said, look, I used to teach film and I used to teach like narrative structure and all the rest of it. So I am incredibly critical. But I still think saying, oh, but it's on sci-fi is a bit, you know, don't we want really good sci-fi though?
That's been kind of the joke running around our circles that everybody's just going, but it's sci-fi. And it's like, people are starving for halfway decent sci-fi that they're sort of like letting some of the stuff pass. And they're just going, but it's sci-fi, so we're okay, we're happy. And it's like, but
it's the pilot, so I'm going to say it's in beta. The show is in beta.
It can certainly improve. I mean, look at the great shows that have been awful to start with and then become excellent. You know, Buffy was pretty bad the first season, and got great as it went along. Next Generation was awful, well, pretty bad until basically the third season, really. Yeah. And, you know, so there's plenty of time, and it could get a lot better, but personally, and I am very critical, we've had Battlestar Galactica, we've had Firefly. This didn't live anywhere near up to those, and I'm not the type to just go, oh, that's okay then. Because I'm like that. All
right. In one word answer, will you be watching it again, Jason Winter?
Yes. I'll give it at least a season.
I said, Scott.
I'll have to for work.
All right, let's move on and talk about some Age of Wushu. Because I've been playing a bunch, so is Scott. I don't know if Jason has or not, but I think a lot of people kind of have the wrong idea about this game. So I figure we maybe just talk about it a little bit since it launched. Now we've had some time with it. I'll start with Scott. Scott, would you say the impression right now is that most people think that it's just another Asian MMO that's basically just super grindy and way too grindy for their Western audience?
I've actually put if you go to Zam, I've done a first impressions review of the game today. That's exactly, is like, if you go into that game, the sort of like tutorial part of it is quest, and you're running around and it's clunky and, you know.
And they're pretty bad.
It feels like, it does feel pretty bad. And it's grindy and it's not well put together and it's the quest text is bad and the writing's off and there's a lot of things that don't really work, and if you just play for that, it's going to look like a possibly put together badly put together import that hasn't gone well.
But there's a big but.
If you can get past the first island in Terra,
No, this is
It's
nothing
still
like
Terra.
Terra.
well,
This is
the
nothing.
Noob Island sounds exactly like how you describe Noob Island.
No, this is where I think
No,
they're.
no.
This is where I think
Terra's not a
that
different game when you get off Noob Island.
I'm not
Snail
saying
is-
get off. I'm saying Noob Island.
have
Gary
you played?
barely
Have
made
you
it past Noob Island.
have you played any of it, Jason?
No.
Okay.
But they play
I'm
Noob
curious. I'm just curious to know whether you played it or not. So if you haven't, that's totally fine. Because that's why I wanted to talk about this really quick, because I do think it's got a lot of misconceptions. Like it's not a perfect game. There's definitely issues with it, but I think the community, what they think of Age of Wushu right now is not even close to what the game is. And the closest thing I could describe, I think Scott, I don't know if you agree, but the closest thing I can describe Age of Wushu is it's martial arts EVE Online.
It's absolutely martial arts EVE Online. If you play EVE Online, remember the not. I mean, now people say going into it, just call it the learning cliff, but getting into EVE Online now is nowhere near as mind-numbing as it used to be. Like you used to go in and you used to do that tutorial. People quit before finishing the tutorial quests. Like it could go on for hours, and that's Age of Wushu.
It was about 12
Oddly
hours
enough.
of tutorial in the original EVE Online, and Age of Wushu is kind of similar. It's a lot of, it's incredible. So I see, it's crazy because I'm getting tweets from people going like, it's terrible, it's a terrible grind, it's a theme. I got people telling me it's a theme park, and I'm like, you have no idea what this game is because it's not a theme park at all. The game is it's a sandbox 100%. The game is entirely built around guilds fighting other guilds and owning land and structures and guild halls and having massive battles. It's EVE Online. All the systems in it are EVE Online. The whole money system, right? People are confused by that. It's and it's extremely hard to understand. I've been playing for like 2 weeks, and most of the people that I'm playing with are like, it's going to take at least a month to understand the systems in this game. It's the Plex system, basically. It's the Plex money system.
I wrote a review today, and what I say is that this is a review, but I can't really review it because it's going to take a long time before I fully comprehend this game. But that's good because that means that the initial impression that I first got isn't correct because there's a lot more in the game than appears when you first start. It just looks like a grindy, quest repeating, shallow MMO, and it isn't. That's just the first step into a world where you're going to be able to do virtually anything that you fancy. And there's crazy stuff. Have you played the mini game, which is basically like, the sort of Candy Crush moving things around, and then you kill your opponent doing it? For crafting. Your life shifus and stuff.
I know we can sit here and go to everything. Like I'm playing this game, and it's funny because I had this. It was like the Game Breaker community screaming in the back of my head, going like, "We want this, we want this," and it's like, "We want mini games, we want sandbox," and I'm like, I'm playing Age of Wushu, and I'm going,
"Here it is.
All right, this has it. All right, this has it." And every day, like I would realize a new system. Like I became what do you call it? Well, the what is it? Divination thing, right? Like that whole thing. I'm basically I'm a freaking fortune teller where I set up shop in the middle of the thing. And basically you can come to me, Jason, and I can do two things. I can tell you your fortune, which is basically I can give you a buff to cultivating for your XP bonuses. Or if you want to hunt somebody down in PvP in the open world, I can tell you where they are so to help you find them.
How much do you charge for that?
Yeah, I do charge for that.
Oh, yeah,
I charge. That's the thing. And I get set up and you could pay me for that, which is like, when can you do that in a game? Like all the scum and villainy, like we're going to be covering stories in the next year, just like EVE Online, infiltrating other schools, stealing important information, documents, like guild stuff, wiping people out. It's got all the makeup for all those crazy EVE Online stories of people spending years of their life to infiltrate and destroy people.
You start off joining a house, which is your martial, like the school, your martial arts school. So that you would think, oh, this is an MMO, and so basically this is my ability line. No, those are just the books that you basically get given to give you an idea of what you're doing. But eventually you can steal any of the books from the other houses. You can get them from wherever. You can do whatever you feel like. And the amount of stuff that you start with is a lot. You kind of get a bit overwhelmed with the amount of different abilities you get. But then you start running up walls and flying through the air and doing crouching tiger, hidden dragon battles like across the sky sort of thing. And you're like, oh, you can do all this. And then you realize how more open it is. It's clunky. Even the combat's clunky. If you're playing, by the way, put auto parry on.
Yes.
Because that makes a big difference. Because the block with the right click is it's really unintuitive on when to do it or not. So if you do the auto parry, it just does it for you, and it's a lot less hassle, especially when you start off.
The other reason I'm going to say I think it might feel clunky to a lot of players right now is that it's a rock paper scissors environment, which most MMOs aren't made like that these days. So it's a lot of counter moves, like watching your opponent, seeing what they're doing, and then you have to counter everything in a rock paper scissors fashion. And we're not really used to that in an MMO. Nobody's really done that. All the little complaints I've seen, like certain things, I've seen people jump into it and make assumptions in like 2 seconds. It's got auto pathing, right? And even at first, I was sort of like, you get that sense of like, wow, this is like the GPS thing in World of Warcraft, where you're just like, you just want to play the game for me. I'll just sit back and eat a sandwich and hang out. But then you realize, well, the reason it's because you look at the map, it's gigantic. The world is
big,
monstrous. And just like EVE Online, if you had to set a destination that was like 60 jumps away, would you want to sit there and do all those 60 jumps like manually? I don't know about you, but
it's also not just that. The sort with your quest tracker, when you click on the name and it takes you there, you need to, because the amount of actual players and NPCs are around. It's difficult to pick out your quest NPCs at times because there's so many around you. And you also don't know if they're players or NPCs a lot of the time, because players become NPCs when they log off, for a start, because they're taking on jobs. And also players are doing things that you might... Like, I walked through town and I saw, like, a begging, like, script going up. And I thought it was an NPC, and it wasn't. It was a player, and that's begging's one of the skills that you can do. Yes. The professions, basically. So...
And there's actually consequence to that. There's consequence to that. So if a beggar comes up to you, you're rooted for I think 5 seconds while they're begging for money, and you have a choice. You can either pay them or tell them to get away. And I think if you pay them, I'm not remembering correctly, but I think you may get a small buff to something. And if you don't pay them, you actually get like something, like a diminishing effects kind of thing or something. I don't know. We were having a great time. I mean, Scott and I, we were playing the other night, and we were like only 4 or 5 of us, and I was like, well, what are we going to do? Like, we're probably not going to be like some massive mega guild, right? Like, we're probably not going to get to that level and be burning down guild houses. I was like, well, let's have some fun. Let's all meet up and let's just be like a group of like crazy pirates. And everybody was like, yes, pirates. And another thing, just to give some people some more information about how the game works, is that when you log off of the game, your character doesn't necessarily, if you're a VIP member, leave the game. They take a job as an NPC in the game and you walk around. So like, Jason Winter's character, he might log off and then he's carrying like, bags of food or something in town, and you'll see his character. Well, you can actually kidnap him and you can blow dust in his face, knock him out, put him in a knapsack and carry him back and sell him to the innkeeper. Now, when other players see that happening, they jump in and intervene because they want to be the good guy. So then all of a sudden we had like this massive battle in the middle of town, and everybody was kung fuing it up in the middle of the air, and it was crazy.
And it's completely open. And if you want to, it's open PvP.
So it is open PvP, but it gives you a dialogue box every time you launch the game that says this is an open world PvP environment.
You're going to get your head kicked in. Careful now. And I was doing some trade skilling, and I suddenly started getting damage. And someone had flown up to the top of the forge in the center of the town I was in, was perked up there, and he was throwing darts at everybody going by. And so I hid, and because I'm like quite low level, and he was ripping me apart, I hid there, and eventually, like, you saw people flying up the side of this forge or running up the side of it, and just started having this big scrap at the top of it, and just lamping each other to pieces. It was like really fun, and that just happens on the fly. And so we've talked before about we have a lot of people who we know who want something different, who want things that happen organically that you won't expect, that want all these different systems. And the weird thing is, this game called Age of Wushu has kind of got a lot of that in there, but you won't know it at first glance at all.
You're gonna have to invest. If this
Yeah,
sounds
it really
interesting
do.
to you, I'm gonna cut this short and get to some questions. But if this sounds interesting to you, and EVE Online-esque systems with open world PvP and lots of like player versus player, which I think is awesome.
It's not going to be for everyone. It really
No,
isn't going to be for
no.
everyone. But I think people who it is for are going to kind of get really addicted to it.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem right now is just their marketing is terrible.
It needs more explanation. It
Because
does.
nobody
It needs
understands
more
that this is the
framing.
game. And I almost gave up on it within like 2 hours. The first 2 hours, I was just
Yeah.
like, what is this? Like, this is just a mess.
'Cause-
And the questing's terrible. Like, am I just going to do this for like ever? And it's like, then we finally realize like this, no, you can like stop the questing like pretty damn early on. Like, I'm done questing. I stopped. It's just like EVE. Like, now you just figure out what skill books you need to go and you start like making money and getting skill books. And I don't know, Jason, what are your thoughts?
I've started smithing.
I agree in that that's all I've seen is opening stuff, whether it's like Mike's BFF report and a few people streaming and whatever. What you guys are describing to me does sound really cool. The one thing I'm wondering about, though, is I've heard about this is, I think, a review or some sort of I read it from some guy on Massively or MMORPG, I don't remember which site,
Mm-hmm.
where he was like, once you get past that stuff, though, he referred to basically people who can do well in this game as no-lifers. And that's what I wonder about, is it's the sort of thing where more PvP I don't have a problem with, unless I'm going to walk out of town and get one-shotted by the first guy with a decent
Yeah, you're
sword who
going
hits
to.
me.
Yeah,
But
you're going to.
you are.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
going
How
to.
long do
It's
I
not
have
for
to
you.
play?
This is
and
not a
cry
Jason
away?
Win.
No,
this is not a
listen,
Jason
no,
Winter
listen to
game.
me, listen to me. Let me talk. Let me finish. How long do I have to play to be someone who doesn't get automatically dominated in the first
I don't
time
know.
someone?
Game just started. The servers are
Probably
pretty
never
fresh, so I don't
will.
know.
Because probably never will. Just the fact
It's all
that if you're
real-time
up against
skilling.
killed, it's
So like
think
Eve,
Eve, if you go-
you get books and they spend you read them and it takes hours for you to learn those skills. Just like Eve, and you log off and you can keep skilling. So
Well, that's not so bad, but it's just a question of, am I going to have to play for a
that's
year and a
what-
half to get to the point of this other guy who has no life and played
well,
for
the
a
game
month?
just launched. So
Think of it this way, right? If you go to Eve and go to 0-0 space and come up against a corp on your own, it doesn't matter how many skill books you got. You're going to get wasted,
Mhm.
and that's it. Like it's like so at the moment, because there's not a huge amount of people at that stage yet, we haven't seen these huge battles and all those systems kicking off really, because there's not the population who've progressed to that. But even though they have started, like there is some of that going on. But it's, as I said, in Eve, if you go to 0-0 space and come up against a big corp and you're on your own and you don't expect it to get one-shotted, then you're fooling yourself. It's going to happen. It's just down to, it's a game that is going to require being social and being in guilds to get anywhere. And again, it's not going to be for everybody, but for people who really want that in the game, it's there.
what it's going to be is that, and then smaller groups of people that, you know, if you don't want to be in larger guilds, like even like they can exist, but they do different things.
Yeah.
Like there's small mining groups, right, who go out or small mercenary pirate groups that go out into weird sects of space and just wait for people to kind of fly through and they like, you know, blow them up and they take their stuff. So there's all,
Yep.
again, it's like,
And
I'm not saying I
it's
have
really
to be the world-conquering super raider or anything, but I want to have a chance.
But what I can see happening is things like you making your own guilds, smaller guilds making getting their own territories, and then joining larger conglomerates of guilds who are going to protect each other. You
I
can
guess
see
that's
that
possible.
kind of thing
Yeah.
happening. Like, yeah, you can have other guilds help protect your structures. You can build defense. You can build your own structures, build defenses on those structures, and like, you know, you'll have your guild, like, you know, Crest or wherever on the front gates, and then you can have other guilds involved in helping you to defend it. So that kind of, like, you know, political thing is going to happen. So basically think of all the skullduggery and everything that's gone on in Eve. All of that can happen with the systems that are available in Age of Wushu. It's not going to yet because it's just starting, but the potential's there. Now, they need to tighten a few things up in a lot of ways, but the underlying systems are there for all that stuff to happen, which is exciting.
yeah, just be prepared to be very frustrated of trying to understand all the systems because holy crap.
Well, I got
I'm
that.
gonna leave it
I
at that.
was frustrated just by watching
Yeah.
the videos. I could barely figure out what was going on.
No, it believe me, it is. You're gonna be like you're asking questions constantly. But if you like that type of game and you're into that, like if I was an EVE Online player for years, so like I obviously liked EVE Online. I don't play anymore, but seeing this, it's like it brings back those memories of like I like the exploration. in an MMO where I don't understand everything in the game. It's like I don't want to just WASD 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sometimes.
It's huge. The actual space is massive. It really
And
is
another,
so.
a lot of
big.
players are sort of like running across it. They're just like, there's nothing here, and it's like, is there stuff in Eve? No, it's there for the taking. That's why it's there. All right, I'm moving on. Let's do some questions. If you guys have questions for the This Week in MMO crew, send them over to submit@gamebreaker.tv and keep an eye on our Facebook page, facebook.com/gamebreakertv. We ask for them there as always. If you have video questions, record yourself on YouTube, send us the link, submit@gamebreaker.tv. We will play it on the show. First up from Martin Pelletier says, with the new PS4 and the next Xbox coming and being powerful enough, will we see more MMO on those platforms? DC Online seems to be going well on PS3. What do you think, Jason? Do you think we'll see some more MMOs on the consoles?
I think we might see a few more, but I mean, it's not like it hasn't exploded yet. I mean, PS3s obviously have a little bit, DC Universe Online, for instance, and then Final Fantasy XI, was on, must have been PS2, I guess. Go back that long, or was it Xbox, PS2? Nobody. Anyway, I don't think it's going to be a huge thing. I think there'll still be a couple, but it might work better because we got more of a trend towards the action-y kind of games, the more hardcore clicky kind of games, and MMOFPSs, Dust, for instance, which are better suited, I think, for a console than your typical have 30 skills and so on kind of game. So if we see more of those kind of games, I think we're more likely to see those on consoles.
Scott Hawks, what do you think?
I think there are two different markets. I think that there will be people who will be happy to play MMOs on consoles. I think there will be more of them, certainly. And I think games like Destiny will maybe open there up a little more too. Might be the sort of gateway for people to do that. But I don't think it's going to be something where people are going to be moving from PC over to console to play their MMOs instead in the main.
Yep, I agree. I was going to bring up Destiny and next Blizzard MMO if it's possibly on a console. If they release on a console, I think we need some. I think we need some really big hitters to kind of pave the way and try and like break into that market more than anything else. So, all right, let's see. Question 4 from Neil Longbottom. Are you guys going to do an EverQuest next show after the announcement later this year at SOE Fanfare? Are they really? Is that something that has been announced that I don't know about? Are they really?
No, it's not been announced. But
No.
let's put it. Every time I talk to somebody from SOE and I say EQ next, and then I mention SOE Live in the same sentence, they all look like really bad poker players. And we're not saying anything. You'll just have to wait and see. And
What else would they say?
Exactly, and then look incredibly smug for a while and say, "Oh yeah, we've seen it." And then so SOE Live. I know I'm going to be there, so SOE Live is going to be fairly interesting.
Yeah, I'll be there. And if I don't know if there's enough interest in EverQuest Next, of course, we're always looking to make more shows by games that you guys are interested in. So for sure. And then, funny enough, next question here is about another show. I guess just answer questions about shows today. Will you guys consider doing a Wildstar show? Sure. If there is interest in the Wildstar franchise from NCSoft, Gamebreaker as a corporation will meet your needs and create a Wildstar show as long as the community see fit.
We're doing it all for you. Not you over there.
Scott Hawks, editor-in-chief over at Zam.com. Follow him on Twitter at Jarimor, Jarimor. I think that was right. Is that right? That's right?
That's right, yeah.
Jarimor. And go over to Zam.com and go check out his Defiance review in full. And
Age of Wushu.
find him in Age of Wushu on the Blue Dragon server.
Yeah.
Jason Winter, you can follow him on the Twitter at Winter Informal. Winter Informal.
Formal.
You will not find him on the Blue Dragon server in Age of Wushu.
Maybe.
He'll burn you down.
No.
Follow me on Twitter at Gary Gannon.
I'm trying to come within.
Follow Gamebreaker TV at Gamebreaker TV. If you guys want to sign up for Wushu, go to gamebreaker.tv/Wushu. It's all the information's right there. Actually, I want to start an Age of Wushu show now. Just because it's fun. Have a great weekend. Thanks for watching. See you next week.